What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about some big factors involved in the markets, and how things are looking in my personal opinion as we approach next week. Before I break down this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. And the offer ends very soon in just about 12 days from now. Anyways, for SPY, we're seeing a bit of a downtrend, which has been respected, and we actually end up losing a very, very key support at 550.5. After losing that support, SPY is looking more bearish. We're actually seeing a lot more, metrics that suggest that there's more downside coming. This is not the best of news, at least for a lot of buyers. So I just want to make it very, very clear for the people out there who are very, very bullish to be very careful. This was completely long overdue. It was time for the market to see some downside, and it happened pretty quickly. And if anything, there is more downside potential, at least for these markets, looking at how things are looking. And I do favor that to a very, very large extent. So I will break down more information about this in just a minute. I just want to talk about next week real quick. Just know that for next week, there's not really much coming out. On Monday, we just have the 3-month and 6-month bill auctions coming out. For Tuesday, we just have some bill auctions and some data coming out from the Richmond Fed, all very, very minor data. For Wednesday, we just have a couple of things coming out, such as new home sales, not to mention retail inventories, and more S&P Global Composite manufacturing numbers. Some of that is significant, but for the most part, it's not too crazy. And then finally, for Thursday is when we have the GDP numbers coming out. Those are going to be more important. And then we also have more data coming out from bill auctions, followed by Friday's PCE data report, which is very, very important data for understanding how inflation is looking. So we have a very, very, we have a very, very important end of the week for Thursday and Friday. Monday through Wednesday are very, very minor data days. Also for earnings, we have a new calendar that just came out. So I'm going to update you guys in just a second. So just know that for Monday, we have Verizon announcing their earnings and a couple of others. For Tuesday, we have Coca-Cola, not to mention GM, Tesla, and Alphabet/Google announcing their earnings. Wednesdays when we have AT&T, Ford, and then IBM. And then for Thursday, we have American Airlines, not to mention a few more out there. So I just want to make it very clear that the most important days are going to be on Tuesday and Wednesday. On Tuesday, we have Tesla and Alphabet announcing their earnings. This is going to cause a very, very big move for the markets. So get ready, guys. Things are going to get very, very interesting with all of this coming out. On top of that, as far as the market sentiment goes, we're just neutral. We're getting closer to fear now. We're actually closer to fear than we are to greed. And we're seeing a big shift right over here. Momentum is still at greed, but it's getting closer to neutral as we're once again getting closer to our 125 daily moving average. And then on top of all of that, I just want to call out that the puts and call option positioning is starting to shift. I think we're about to approach greed instead of being extremely greedy. And we're starting to see a lot of these puts being opened. We're seeing a lot more shorts. The VIX is also continuing to climb. We have a breakout on the VIX, which is once again signaling a lot more fear for the markets. There's a very, very big shift that's happening. This is very, very important. So what do I see for the market moving forward? We are looking bearish. We're making lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. Generally, when you see this much of downside, you do tend to kind of like gap up or try to open a little higher next week. But then we're going to likely continue lower because we ended up closing below a very, very critical support, and there is a lot of weakness developing. When you look at the weekly time frame, this is one of the most bearish weekly candles we've gotten in a very, very, very long time on SPY. This is very, very weak, and I think that there's a good chance this is going to continue to lead to more downside. The daily candle is also going to be a big factor worth mentioning. As you guys can see, the daily has had 3 red days in a row. We also lost our 20 EMA, and we're approaching this support. The daily is showing that 540 is potential support right here. We also have this gap to fill down here at 536. So if we were to lose, let me make this very clear, okay? So if we do gap up on Monday, we're going to likely continue to dip to this imbalance over here towards 543. Okay, 543 is going to be a very, very important support. If we lose this 542, 543 zone, which is where we have this consolidation phase, then there is a risk of not just 540. 540 is going to be our next target to fill this this very, very important imbalance. And then we're also going to be looking for a test of our 50 EMA. And then if that breaks, we have a gap to fill all the way down to 536. Those are going to be 3 levels, okay? If we continue falling, I think we easily go down to 542 to 543, and then we have 540 and then 536 coming next. So there's going to be some important levels on SPY, especially as we have that big unfilled gap. So you want to be very, very careful with all of that happening. Now, what about all the gaps down here, all the way down to like the 505 area and etc.? Just know, guys, that those could get filled later on. It doesn't have to be during this cycle. For instance, we actually saw SPY dip right here during the May period, only to continue higher. So it doesn't have to go all the way that low now. It could happen later on. So we'll just have to wait and see. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to be eyeing this imbalance over here, this 543 area. I think there's a good chance we do end up coming down there, especially as we have this bearish momentum. So look for a gap up and a continuation lower. That's looking more probable to me. For Nvda, Nvda has key support at 116.5 at the 50 EMA. If this fails, we'll be dipping all the way down to lower levels such as like 112. So watch 116.5 as key support. We have resistance at 120 and 122. My guts tells me 116 is likely going to be coming. For Bitcoin, we're trying to push higher. We look bullish. I think 68,000 is a potential target. It's still pushing and looking like it has some strength. Tesla is looking more bearish. If you look at the daily time frame, I think we're going to easily be testing some lower levels. If we fail, excuse me, if we fail to get back above 242, since we just lost the 4-hour 50 EMA, I'll be looking at 232 as a potential target for Tesla. I think we might be testing that, especially as we have this gap to fill over here. We might come very close to filling this gap towards 232. We might be looking to see if Tesla rebounds. But despite Tesla looking a little bit more bearish right now, I am not necessarily worried. Why? Because you have to remember and keep this in your memory that we have earnings coming out for next week on Tuesday. So even if Tesla does dip to the 232 area, even if it goes down to the 220s, it's okay. We could easily still see a big bounce after earnings, or we could get a bigger rug pull. The big move is going to happen after earnings. I'm not really worried about what happens for the next couple of trading days. Earnings will be the big reaction. I'll be waiting for that instead. For the QQQ, I see 472.5 coming. We're going to easily test this 50 EMA. If we bounce off this, look for a nice rebound up into the 480s. But if we lose 472, it's going to be a critical support. There's a big gap to fill all the way down to 460, the 468 area. So it's going to drop another 4+ points to start filling that gap. So I do see potential in the QQQ to dip lower. So keep that in the back of your guys' minds. For Aapl, we have support at 222. If we lose this, we'll be dipping all the way down to about 218. There is a risk of that. So I think we're going to be testing 222 soon. We'll have to watch to see if we reject or not. So watch for that as well. With that being said, guys, I went over the majority of tickers. Maybe I'll just go over a few more to conclude this video. Coinbase is looking more bullish, trying to break out to 262. It still looks like it might test that, but watch to see if you get a rejection from there. Amazon's trying to rebound a little bit. I think we could be looking for a retest of about 185, and we'll see if you reject or not. It's already dropped really hard to key support 180, so look for a little rebound, and we'll see if it rejects from there. Meta was trying to rebound, did touch 185 as we called that, only to reject. So now it's in a very, very interesting phase. If we lose 475, I'll be looking for a dip all the way down to about 470. So just be very careful with that. For Microsoft, we're trying to rebound. We're going to be looking at this resistance over here around 440. I think we might be retesting 439.5 to 440, and we'll see if you reject or not. And then, the trend is more bearish. It's making lower highs and lower lows, so there's a risk of it dipping lower, so watch for that as well. Google's looking more bearish. We have 178.7 as our support. If this fails, we'll be filling this gap all the way down here towards 178. For resistance, make sure you watch 180. I do favor downside a little bit more for 178.7. Then we could end up coming down to fill this gap. So I do see a more downside potential for Google, but things could change depending on earnings. So keep that in the back of your guys' minds. All right, so that's it for my analysis. I'm not going to go over every single ticker for this one, guys. I'll be doing that on Sunday. For now, I just want to do a more simple video and then talk about some other factors. But for now, please enjoy the weekend, guys. I hope you guys take care, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Then my next video will be coming out tomorrow for Saturday. So until then, have a great day and peace out.